What is our plan?
Well, I don't know what you mean, Trevor, by what is our plan, but first and foremost, let me just say that as a people, we obviously sympathize with the Indian people and with the Indian government for the very trying period that they are clearly going through. As you know, today they hit another record high in numbers of infections of coronavirus. And I think it is good to put things in perspective. By the way, this is the second wave for India, and people are talking about third and fourth. Is actually their second wave, and it is a devastating one. It has stretched their immense infrastructure, their immense health infrastructure, and clearly, you know, there are many, many challenges that face that government, and we sympathize and condole with those of the families that have been affected, and condole the Indian government on the huge losses that they are seeing of people. Secondly, as regards what we are going to do, this afternoon we had a meeting of the National Emergency Response Committee, which I chair, and we resolved a number of things, including, you know, and we are weighing the options that we have. So as early as probably tomorrow, by end of day, we will be announcing the measures that the National Emergency Response Committee has come to. Certainly, the first responsibility we have is protection of Kenyan lives, and that we will not hesitate in doing.
What does that involve, CS? Are we thinking of closing down then our borders with India, to make a more direct question?
Well, you can't close the border with India because you have no border with India. What you can do, and the options that we have, is suspension of passenger flights between ourselves and India, perhaps for a period of time, and then we resume when they flatten the curve, or when we can be secure, we can be sure. Because so the option that we have at the moment, and this is the option that has been adopted by quite a number of countries across the world, is essentially suspension of the flights. However, this is an announcement or otherwise that we are going to make tomorrow.
But also at the same time, when we are going to make that announcement, many Kenyans travel to India for treatment. What is the plan for those who are seeking treatment as medical reasons in India?
You know, Trevor, this is not going to be an ideal situation either way. Whichever decision we take is going to hurt some people. And it is what is popularly known as the devil's alternative. Whatever you do, you are going to cause a cost. But I think the fundamental thing is to ask ourselves, where is the highest cost? And therefore, what decision must we make? For instance, when it comes to traveling to India, at the moment, traveling to India for hospital care is almost something that nobody is doing, or very, very few people are doing. Indian hospitals are completely and totally overwhelmed. So the issue of the people traveling from Kenya to India for medical purposes right now actually doesn't make any sense. And then when you consider the level of infections that are there in that country, then you can see why we discourage. However, so even if we were to close, even if we were to suspend the travel to India, it will only be for a short while they also come to grips with the situation that exists in their country.
Yeah. But CS, I know the NAC has thought about this in terms of the people already there. So when they come back home, will they need to be isolated? Because we are talking about the Bengal variant in India as well.
Absolutely. You know, that is something that would have to happen. We will obviously be giving a window of a couple of hours or a couple of maybe a flight or two for people who would be able to come back home, to be able to come back during that period before the closure, which is, and as I said, I don't want to preempt the announcements tomorrow, but all I can hint at is for sure, you know, there is going to be probably just a short period before the closure takes effect, and then it will take effect for a short time. Normally, within 14 to 21 days, you'd see how a situation is developing, as has happened in many parts of the world.
CS, you know the other issue that's happening is vaccination. I know so far we've vaccinated 1,080,000. When do we expect the second dose for this 1,080,000 people who have been vaccinated already in the country?
Okay, at the technical level, what we are advised by our doctors is that those vaccines, once you get the first dose, you can wait up to 3 months in order to get the second dose. That's the first thing to clear. The second thing to clear is that even if you have only one dose, you still are offered some form of protection up to the tune of about 60% of what you would otherwise get. The third thing to say is that the challenge that exists, that is currently in place, obviously is as a result of the situation in India. Because if India is experiencing the kind of situation it has, exports of vaccines from that country becomes difficult. Now, let us understand each other here very clearly, because there are those who will say, why didn't Kenya do something? Why is the ministry not doing something? And as you know, Trevor, the person watching a football match is always the better footballer than the footballer who is on the pitch. And first and foremost, Kenya is purchasing its AstraZeneca supplies from the COVAX facility. The COVAX is a group that is buying together vaccines with support of developed countries. Under the COVAX facility, there are 93 countries. In those 93 countries, there are some countries that have not even begun the vaccination. In fact, quite a number of them haven't even begun. So Kenya has actually been on the boards because of the way we rolled out our vaccination process. Obviously, by now, we were hoping that we would have already received some 2.4 million doses, according to the program that we have. By now, we are supposed to have received another 2.4 million doses, so that we can be able to do two things. A is in 3 months' time or in 2 months' time, we can start the rollout of the second dose and then start off on a new lot of people. Clearly, this is a challenge. And we have explained to people in Kenya, those who are supposed to receive, for example, their dose in May are not going to be able to do so unless the efforts that we are making to receive emergency AstraZeneca from other parts of the world. And of course, as you can imagine, everybody is clamoring for them. The 93 countries are all scrambling for the AstraZeneca. But we are confident that by the time we get to the 3 months period, when we begin to need to vaccinate the lots who are vaccinated first, we are confident by that time we will have gotten some AstraZeneca. But we are not just relying on the COVAX facility as a government. We have also made our own bilateral efforts, and we are in contact with with the AU facility. Under the AU facility, we are able to buy at very subsidized rates other vaccines. So we are discussing with Johnson & Johnson. We are discussing with Pfizer the possibility of rolling out even those other vaccines in the country. The third thing I think I would like to say is that we are aware there has been a big debate regarding whether if one uses one vaccine, you are able to use a different vaccine. Originally, the informed position was that you only use the same vaccine. But as you yourself have been watching watching on TV, on CNN and other medical media, the beginning, what we are now beginning to hear, is that as a matter of fact, you might even gain more by using a different second dose from the first one. But as I said the other day, this is something that doctors and experts are still going through, and the jury, in my view, is still out on this one.
But CS, why didn't you mention Sputnik? Is Sputnik an option as well? Because I heard you say Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. Why not Sputnik? And there are some people who've already taken it here.
We are looking at Sputnik. We are looking at Pfizer. We are looking at Johnson & Johnson. We are looking at Sinovac. We are looking at Sinopharm. All those are options for us. And I can tell you this, Trevor, that, for instance, when it comes to the cost when it comes to the cost of vaccines, the best option is AstraZeneca. The second best option is Johnson & Johnson. The third best option is Pfizer, and so on and so forth. There is no vaccine approved by the World Health Organization for emergency rollout is off the table. There is no vaccine that is off the table.
Okay.
What is off the table, as far as any vaccine is concerned at the moment, is the use or the distribution of any of those vaccines via the private sector. So what we have said is that we have engaged. In fact, even as we speak, we have engaged the Russian government to see what, on government to government, we are able to acquire these vaccines. So there is no vaccine, as far as we are concerned, that is fully approved and tested and tried, that is not on the table.
Okay. CS, we see the positivity rate gradually reducing now. Can we attribute this to the DIZ lockdown, or is this the natural up and down curve of COVID-19?
It is, as a matter of fact, directly attributable to the cessation of movements, and I'll tell you why. If you study the statistics very carefully, what you will find is that Nairobi, for example, used to have half. It used to be half of all the positive cases that we have in the country. I recall at one time it even went to about 56% of the persons infected were in Nairobi alone. If you look at the statistics today, you will find that, for instance, yesterday, because Sunday is not representative because they are very low. It's a very low testing day. But if you look at the previous day, you'll find that Nairobi was down to about 30 and then moving sometimes even to less than 30% of the people who are infected in the country. So what does that tell you? And then when you look at the statistics of the counties that have got no restriction measures, for example, if you look at Uasin Gishu, if you look at Nyeri County, increasingly Mombasa now, you will find that in those countries, instead of the positivity rate coming down, the positivity rate is actually going up, which tells you clearly that the measures that
Right, we seem to be having a bit of internet challenges there with the CS. We're trying to get him back. I see a lot of your questions also coming through here from C1 Soko analyst asking about the issues of vaccines. I will also push that to the CS as soon as we have him back. CS, you're finishing your thought. We lost you there for a bit.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, you're back. Go ahead.
Oh, good. So I don't know at what point I disappeared, Trevor.
Yeah.
But essentially, what I was saying is that it is the measures that we take that essentially create the effect that you see. Because if you compare where we have not taken measures and where we have taken measures, you can see the trends are in opposite direction.
Okay. CS, how many are you targeting in Kenya to be vaccinated so that we can fully reopen? Because so far we've done 1,080,000.
We intend to vaccinate at least 30 million people. At 30 million people, which is 60% of our population, is where we can begin to believe that you have developed herd immunity. So at 30 million people, that is the target we have. That's what I would like to see. And I would like to do that as soon as possible. But I think what we need to appreciate, and I think what we have to understand, is that this is a number that we will vaccinate when the supply schedules are clear. And by the way, Trevor, all over the world, this is the challenge. Whether you go to Europe, whether you go to UK, wherever you go, this is a challenge because of the availability of vaccines. Now, in the short to medium term, our plan is actually to produce the vaccines here, starting with what we call a form and fill facility, which we are currently working on, to see whether we can start importing the vaccine in drums and then filling here, because that is a major challenge. The major challenge is not usually producing the vaccine in large drums. The major challenge is ensuring that it is in vials that can now be used at the endpoints. So it is one of the plans that we are trying to put together. We have a team, a committee that is working on this, and hopefully in the very near future, at least before the year ends, we can discuss how this has progressed. This is not a short-term measure. It is not something that we can talk about doing in the next couple of weeks. And there are those also who will say, now, isn't this something that we should have done a long time ago? True, it is something that years ago we should have invested in. And we did invest, for example, in livestock vaccines, which we now produce and actually export.
Yeah.
But we did export. We did not invest at the time on human vaccines, which is the cost that we are paying now.
Yeah. So, Governor, there are some people who are wondering whether these numbers are really going down, or is it because we are testing less now?
No, we work on a positivity rate. What we work on essentially is a positivity rate. A positivity rate is reflected, whatever numbers you do. However, the aim at any one time and the recommended testing rate or numbers is 1% or is of your population. So at the point where we are testing about 7,000, when we are testing 7,000 people, and if you test around 7,000, sometimes we have tested way above the 7,000 that is recommended. It is a very, very representative figure. But of course, when you test too low, then it begins to work. And that's why, for us, we measure the positivity rate across a week rather than across a day.
Yeah.
But the positivity rate is indeed coming down. It will be coming down much faster, while some areas also not going up. And therefore, the number, yes, matters, but the positivity rate matters more.
CS,
but Trevor,
yes.
But Trevor, before you ask the next question,
yes.
let me also say this: the critical issue we look at ourselves over and above the positivity rate, over and above all other rates, is the hospital occupancy rate. Because where you get into real problems is where you get overrun, the way you are seeing India, and you see people sitting outside and drowning on their lungs outside the hospitals. So the minute you feel that your hospital capacity is being threatened, then that's why you have to take very severe steps. Because you can't have people going to the hospital and they can't get help. And that has happened almost everywhere in the world, including the United States, which has got probably the best health infrastructure that exists.
Yeah. CS, are you concerned that the schools are reopening on the 10th and yet part of the students will come from the DIZ, that's the disease-infested zones?
Well, it is obviously of concern, and we are going to keep watching. Today in the meeting. We were briefed very well by CS Magoha. We are confident that they are taking sufficient steps at the moment and pacing it in such a manner that we can observe the happenings. And the other beauty of the whole thing, Trevor, is that don't also forget that we have carried out vaccination on teachers, because the main threat when it comes to the schools is not so much the students, who actually get a high positivity rate but an extremely low fatality rate. The issue essentially in the education sector is essentially school workers and the teachers in those schools. And considering that we have rolled out a very aggressive vaccination rate on teachers, we are confident that we can still manage. But of course, it's a revolving situation. It's a fluid and dynamic situation. So decisions will be made as we watch them and as they evolve and happen.
So should this positivity rate continue rising, then we might postpone the reopening of schools, because how then will the parents travel?
I can't venture to say that, Trevor. What I can venture to say is that there is no way we are going to risk the lives of our children at any one time. And I think CS Magoha has been very clear on that one.
Okay. Young Professor Hamoi on Twitter is wondering, initially while the vaccines were being administered, they were strictly talking about 8 weeks apart from one to take the second dose to ensure that we get maximum protection. Are we guaranteed maximum protection in the 3 months duration?
I think what we said and what I said earlier is that the information we have given by the experts on this area, and in fact, what we were talking even to AstraZeneca themselves, is that we have got 3 months, you know, from the time you get your first dose, you have got 3 months, up to 3 months. In fact, today I was even more than that. And the theory that the longer you wait, actually the better impact the second dose will have. And I'm sure that you'll be hearing from our experts on this issue. The point is that there is no reason to panic just because you didn't get your second dose 12 weeks from the time you're supposed to get it.
Okay. But CS, there's another question here. When you were in Parliament, you said that the standoff between USAID and Kenya when it comes to the antiretroviral treatment was resolved, but now we see that there's still a bit of an issue there. We still have a bit of a challenge with the CS. As soon as we have him back, we'll ask him this question. CS, are you back with us? Yes. The question is, what is really the problem between USAID and Kenya? Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, very good. Trevor, let me explain. When I responded to Parliament, and I gave them evidence that the issue that past USAID was one of taxes. That the reason why we had not released the ARV taxes, and Treasury went ahead and said, okay, we have waived those process, release the vaccines. And that is, when I was speaking, that was actually the position. Now, let me deviate a little bit and say this, that I have no shortage of ARVs. We have ARVs that can take us all the way to the month of August through the group, because it is not just USAID.
CS, I seem to be having a bit of a challenge with you. Let me fix that, then come back to you in just a bit, sir. Just hold on one minute. Let's take a quick break here on the Monday Report. We'll fix that sound in just a short while.